Welcome back to my Keep Up channel. British girl, 11, shot dead in French neighbor dispute didn't stand a chance and her little sister will have to live with it forever, says heartbroken grandfather as cops discover large cannabis stash at wild-looking killer's home. A British girl killed in a French neighbor dispute didn't stand a chance, her grandfather has said after a Dutch neighbor allegedly shot her with a rifle. Solane Thornton, 11, was shot as she played on a swing with her sister in her garden at about 10 p.m. on Saturday evening. She and her family had been enjoying the warm evening in the garden of their home in the small hamlet of Saint-Herbot, when the Dutch neighbor shot at them several times, French prosecutors say. Solane's sister Celeste, 8, reportedly ran screaming, "My sister is dead, my sister is dead," as her parents Adrian, 52, and Rachel, 49, were also reportedly gunned down. How is she going to get over that? It will live with her forever, grandfather Irvin Thornton said of Solane's younger sister following the horrific ordeal. The grandfather also reveled that his son, Solane's dad, Adrian, is in a coma after he was shot in the head while the mother Rachel was reportedly shot twice in the head and back. Celeste was unharmed but in a state of shock. It comes as Solane's alleged killer was today named as Dutch national Dirk Rats. The 71-year-old is now facing murder and attempted murder charges. During a search of the home, police also uncovered a large amount of cannabis. A neighbor described him as little guy with long white hair, a long beard, and completely wild-looking. Rat's wife, who was named as Marlene Van Hook, also in her 70s, was being questioned on suspicion of concealing a weapon. The couple were both retired and have lived in a converted schoolhouse in Saint-Herbot for 6 years, said a source. Solane's granddad Irvin Thornton told Mail Online that police arrived at his house on Sunday night to break the devastating news of his granddaughter's death. He said, "We don't know exactly what has gone on. We didn't know anything about a dispute. How can a 71-year-old man shoot a little girl? There might have been dispute over land, but you do not do that. She didn't stand a chance. And in front of her sister. How is she going to get over that? It will live with her forever." Mr. Thornton said he was set to fly out to France as he revealed that his son was still in a coma following the gunfire. He added, "I don't know how long I'll be there." Earlier today, the Quimper prosecutor's office said in a statement, initial evidence suggests the victim's neighbor, a 71-year-old Dutch pensioner, suddenly appeared armed with a firearm and fired several shots in the direction of the victims, before retreating to his home with his wife. After barricading himself in his house next door, the neighbor surrendered when a police negotiator coaxed him out of his property. He was arrested along with his wife by elite firearms officers. Tests were taken following his arrest, and he was under the influence of drugs, an investigating source said. The attack followed a 3-year dispute over noise and a plot of land in the hamlet of Saint-Herbot, in Brittany, according to the region's mayor. Adrian had begun clearing vegetation and detritus from his land, formerly the site of a sawmill, drawing the ire of the neighboring couple known locally as the Belgians, although prosecutors say they had Dutch nationality. With the neighbors also bothered by the noise of Adrian's chainsaw and by the fact their house was now visible from the road, the town hall initially stepped in to mediate the dispute. "We could see," the neighbor was griping, "but there wasn't anything at all alarming about the dispute," Mayor Marguerite Blouzen said. "It was Adrian's land, he can do what he likes with it." Kim McKenney, 64, a British pensioner out with her poodle a few hundred meters from the scene of the crime said it was a tragedy. "I'm shocked and upset that a family has been affected like this and a child killed in a little village which is so quiet, peaceful and friendly," she added, looking close to tears although she did not know the victims. "You might expect it in a city, but not here." Aside from the friction with their neighbors, the British family quickly put down roots in their village, sending their daughters to nearby schools. Described as a lovely person, the mother worked as a home carer for elderly people. The family also helped organize village parties, even allowing visitors to park on their land. "They're very nice, very kind, always happy to help," said a close neighbor in his 80s who asked not to be named. He drew a contrast between the family and the suspected shooter, who he said he had never seen face to face since the couple arrived in 2017. "We never saw them. No contact, nothing at all," added the elderly man, who said that nothing has ever happened here in all the years since he arrived in 1948. "No one knew the suspect," agreed Mayor Bluzen, who described his appearance when arrested as a little guy with long white hair, a long beard, and completely wild-looking. What on earth could have been going on in his head, she wondered. "Saturday's multiple shootings were appalling, abominable," said one local resident as she left White's roses on the threshold of the British family's home. "The slain girl was the same age as my grandson. I'm really moved." "Who wouldn't be," she added, herself appearing close to tears. A source close to the investigation told AFP that a large amount of cannabis had been found in the suspect's home when it was searched by police. Sitting in the Monts d'Arry Hills in western Brittany, the isolated hamlet of Plonaves-du-Faux had been home to the British family since 2019. It is believed the Dutchman first threatened the family with a .22 rifle as far back as 2020, according to neighbors in the hamlet. One said, "That's what the dispute 3 years ago was all about. Police were called because he was threatening the family with his rifle." The two families were always arguing, and the rifle escalated matters, but nobody ever believed that he would use it. Regine Guillot, secretary of the nearest town hall in Plonaves-du-Faux, said the British family had lived in the hamlet for 5 years and that the Dutch neighbor was a private man. "There were neighborhood issues, yes, a hedge, a field, but nothing more than that, not that we were aware of," Guillot told Reuters. The village is in shock. The case has been handed to the public prosecutor in Brest given its gravity. The weapon was a licensed hunting rifle and no effort was made to confiscate it by the police or council officials. The pensioner regularly complained about the family cutting down trees to make way for children's play equipment, including swings. He was also regularly upset about the noise the family made, even though it didn't bother anyone else, it was mainly just kids having a nice time. The attacker's wife was said to be a pleasant neighbor who said hello to people, but her husband was gruff and withdrawn. On Monday morning, an investigation for the murder of a child under 15 and 2 attempted murders was ongoing. Adrian is critically in a coma, according to his father, while Rachel is also being treated. They have both undergone surgeries. Their youngest daughter, 8-year-old Celeste, had been playing on the swing with her sister, but she was able to escape unharmed. News footage showed forensic investigators scouring the scene, with the family's belongings including a picnic bag and a bottle of fizzy pop lying abandoned next to a bench. Yellow numbered labels had been placed next to each item. It was the couple's younger daughter Celeste who raised the alarm, neighbors said, shouting, my sister is dead," as she ran away from the gunfire. The little girl was unharmed and took refuge with a neighbor but is in a state of shock following the ordeal. People in the village called them an adorable, kind and helpful family. Adrian was well known around the hamlet and surrounding countryside for helping out with DIY tasks. Marguerite Bluzen, mayor of Plonaves-du-Faux, which covers the Saint-Herbot hamlet, further substantiated claims that there had been some trouble with a neighbor dispute between the two families since at least 2020. "I intervened with my deputies when we were elected," she said. "There was a problem with the land around their properties, and with noise pollution, it started from there. Following the official intervention 3 years ago, there had been no emergency, but Ms. Bluzen was aware that arguments continued to simmer. This morning, tongues are loosening," she said. "I think they all had a little trouble getting on with each other." Ms. Bluzen added, "The family was well known and liked. There is a village fete every year and they always came. It's incomprehensible to have shot a child. No one can understand how that could have happened." All of the Thorntons were in the garden of their property, a converted sawmill, when shots were fired on Saturday evening. A local prosecutor said Solane and Celeste were playing on a garden swing when the gunman suddenly emerged and fired several times. Initial reports said he fired on them through a hedge while the parents were tending to the barbecue. The gunman then fled and barricaded himself in his house, before later being arrested on suspicion of murder and attempted murder. There was a dispute between neighbors, and a gun was produced, said an investigating source. Tensions clearly reached boiling point. The older girl was shot dead and her parents seriously wounded, he said. The father suffered a head injury and is critical in hospital, while the mother is also very badly hurt. The youngest child is the only one who is unscathed, having managed to flee to another neighbor's house. The intervention group of the National Gendarmerie Tactical Unit was called to the scene and a negotiator persuaded the neighbor and his wife to give themselves up before they were arrested, the prosecutor reportedly said. A source described there as having been a brief siege after the shooter locked himself in his home. After some negotiation, the suspect gave himself up without a struggle, and he was arrested, alongside his wife. He had retired to Saint-Herbot around 6 years ago. The shooting took place on Saturday evening in the picturesque village of Saint-Herbot, near Quimper in the department of Finistère. A direct neighbor of the Thorntons told Le Telegram that he saw the whole family under the oak tree at the bottom of their garden earlier that evening. The two little girls were playing near the games and on the swing, the parents were sitting on their usual bench and having a barbecue, he said. Solane was a pupil at Jean Jouwers College, in the town of Heartbroken. She was in year 6 in the school that has around 150 students. Pupils at the school were receiving psychological care today, following her death. Classes at the Jean Jouwers College resumed as normal on Monday morning, with a medical monitoring team in place. Daily Nesnault, Director of Education Services in the Finistère Department, said, "This is a small area, and everyone knows each other. The children will have heard about what happened. The college principal will say what is appropriate to her students, and a monitoring team including a doctor, nurses, and psychiatrists is in place." Mail de Callan, president of Finistère's departmental council, said there was stupor and consternation after the murder of an 11-year-old schoolgirl in Plonavez-du-Fou. Such a drama, between neighbors, reminds us that the rise of violence in our society must be fought unanimously. I send all my condolences to the girl's family and loved ones, and my most sincere thoughts to the teachers and students of the Heartbroken College. The reasons for this tragedy are not yet known. It would appear that a conflict has been opposing the two neighbors for several years over a plot of land adjoining the two properties, prosecutor Corinne Halley said on Sunday. An investigation has been opened into the murder of a minor and 3 attempted murders. Britain's Foreign Office said it was providing consular assistance to a British family following a shooting. Source: dailymail.co.uk. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.